So I think if there's one thing that this experiment really showed us, the moss has just completely covered the hardscape. So the dirty tank actually really surprised me, and yeah, my first experience with this type of substrate, I actually really enjoyed it. So the Aquasoil versus dirt experiment has now been up and running for 3 months. Yeah, I think 3 months. I think it's time we wrap it up. Last time I gave you guys an update was 5 weeks ago. Since then the tanks have changed quite a lot. But yeah, this will be the last video of this experiment. At the end we're gonna take these tanks down and then we can start preparing for the new experiment. The new experiment is gonna be really cool. I'm super excited about it. It's something a lot of you guys requested. And yeah, I can't wait to get started. Now before we completely destroy these two tanks, of course we're gonna take a closer look. Because actually both tanks are looking quite good right now. Plant growth has been insane in the past few weeks. So it's a bit sad that we have to take these two tanks down, but yeah, it's definitely time for a new experiment. So the main reason for the really good plant growth is because I have started dosing liquid fertilizers. So I think if there's one thing that this experiment really showed us, it's that you need liquid fertilizers. If you're running a hijack tank, if you have highlight CO2 injection, you can't just rely on the nutrients from the substrate. It's as simple as that. It's the same with dirt and the same with Aquasoil. Like even after the last update, we already started to notice nutrient deficiencies after, what was that, like 2 months basically. So after less than 2 months, we already started seeing nutrient deficiencies. So you need to supplement it with liquid fertilizers. That's just one takeaway from this experiment, I guess. So let's first take a look at the Aquasoil aquarium. I'm absolutely loving this one. Like, it's completely overgrown, but it's so lush, so colorful. Look at the moss. Like, the moss has just completely covered the hardscape. The carpet is like super thick. I haven't trimmed any of the plants. Oh yeah, the only thing that really needed trimming was the Ludwigia repens. It starts to grow out of the water, and yeah, that's basically why I have to trim it. So this is the only plant that really has been trimmed. We do have a little bit of algae in here, so we have some blackbrush algae on the branches from the wood. I'm still not sure why this happened. I think the CO2 levels were pretty good for the entire duration of this experiment. The bottle is running out now. It's been running very low, so I need to get it refilled. But yeah, I'm not really bothered by the algae. I mean, the aquarium looks great. Who cares about a little bit of algae? What else can I tell you? The guppies. Guppies doing really good. They actually have been breeding a lot lately. So we still have some babies in here. So I'm gonna have to catch them and put them in my Guppy Fry Aquascape, which I've set up recently. So here on top of the shelf we have my newest addition. This is my no filter Guppy Fry Aquascape. So in here we have some of the early babies basically. So yeah, I've set this up like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks ago. It's been running without a filter, doing really good. So we're gonna catch all those baby puppies. So we're gonna catch all those baby guppies and add them to this aquarium. One thing that's very interesting is the moss in this aquarium. It's the exact same moss from the Twinscapes. So in here we have a bunch of weeping moss. And as you can see, it's starting to grow downwards. That's basically the characteristic of weeping moss. That's why it's called that way. But yeah, that's the moss that I pulled out of this aquarium. So you see over here, it's not doing that. So I wonder why that is. I think it might have something to do with water quality. Because in this aquarium, I'm using tap water. And in this aquarium, I'm using reverse osmosis water. So I'm not sure if that's the reason why it grows differently in there, but yeah, I think it's interesting. Then we're moving on to the dirty tank. Same situation here, completely overgrown, but I'm still enjoying it. Look at this plant completely growing out of the water. And look at the color of the Rotala, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, same situation, very overgrown. Hasn't really had any trimming session at all. If you remember the previous update, you might remember that we had an issue with the carpet. So the Monte Carlo carpet was not growing at all, but since the addition of some liquid fertilizer, it kind of bounced back. So now we almost have a full carpet. I think if it wasn't for the stem plants blocking all the light, we probably would have had a full carpet by now. Same situation here with the algae on the hardscape. So over here we also have some blackbush algae on the branches from the wood. It does seem like the stem plants in this aquarium, like they've grown a little bit more vigorously than the Aquasoil aquarium. Yeah, these are just small differences. It's hard to see any big differences between these two tanks. So the whole point of this experiment was to see which is the better substrate. Is it Aquasoil or is it dirt? To be honest with you, from the very beginning I thought Aquasoil would be the clear winner. But the reason why I thought that is because I had never set up a dirty tank before, I'd never used it, and I was a little bit skeptical about it. But looking back at the past 3 months, I think both tanks have just developed very equally. Like there was never a really clear difference between the two. I think in the beginning the Aquasoil tank took off a little bit faster. The dirty tank needed a little bit more time to start up. But very quickly it caught up, and ever since then there hasn't really been any big difference between the two tanks. Of course, we have to take into account that this was my first dirty tank, and I definitely made some mistakes in setting it up. The biggest mistake being the scraping away of the pond soil from the glass. So that's why the Monte Carlo suffered so much. So the dirty tank actually really surprised me, and yeah, my first experience with this type of substrate, I actually really enjoyed it. And I can definitely see myself using this type of substrate again in the future. One thing that I'd still definitely like to try at some point is a combination of both. So dirt capped with Aquasoil, is that going to be like the best possible substrate ever? That's something we would have to try also in the future. So maybe I'm just rambling a little bit now, but I think what I'm trying to say is that I can't really choose a clear winner. I think it all just depends on your personal preference. I mean, both substrates are very good at growing plants. They both grow plants at the same speed. They both need some liquid fertilization as well if you're using highlight and CO2. So I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I think it really just comes down to personal preference. My favorite is probably still Aquasoil, just because it's so easy to work with. It's an all-in-one soil. It doesn't need to be capped with anything. So I think I still prefer Aquasoil, but yeah, I'm really impressed with the dirty tank method as well. And to be honest with you, I don't think you can say that one substrate is better than the other, because there are so many different types of Aquasoil, there are so many different types of dirt as well. And then there's all these other additives that you can add to the substrate, like you can add clay, you can add poop, you can add whatever you want basically. So to make a statement that Aquasoil is better than dirt or that dirt is better than Aquasoil, like you can't really say that. I mean, that's what I love about this hobby, you know, there's so many different ways to go about it. There's so many different ways to grow plants, and nobody can tell you like you should use this or you should use that because that's the best. No, it's all personal preference. Alright, I've said my goodbyes. Now it's time to get to work. So I'm gonna try and save all the plants. The fish will temporarily go to a different aquarium, because it's gonna take me a few days to get started with the new experiment, and the new experiment needs to cycle again. So yeah, the fish need to go somewhere else temporarily. I was really hoping that I could avoid this cloudiness. So I cut off all these stem plants and just basically leaving the roots in. And that was working just fine. But I also had this other plant, the Cypress helferii, that I added like a month ago. I thought it's only been there for a month, so it probably just has very small roots. No, I didn't. So now we're stuck with this mess. I already caught all the guppies. So the guppies are now in here. I'm gonna move them to the red Dutch Aquascape, and the big guppy babies, they're in here. Got like 5 of them, so maybe there's a few more inside. But they will go to this aquarium right here, so they can go in here. And then we just have the shrimp and the bodice.